Dressed to Kill is a 1980 Brian De Palma-directed erotic thriller. Starring Michael Caine and Nancy Allen, the film has a glossy look, with lots of shining lights and haziness similar to many of De Palma's films. The man who made Carrie and Scarface had a thing for movies with a villain that stood out, and this is no different. From the first shots in a steamy bathroom with a naked woman in the shower, the homage is pretty clearly Hitchcockian in nature.
Say hello to my little friend!
Speaking of which, the late great Alfred Hitchcock was a huge stylistic influence on De Palma, with the psycho shower scene being one of great significance. Lots of sensuality is another thing that De Palma employed in his movies, but that was to much of his own credit. The dark and sensual world of the characters is overlapped with the dark and first-person camera angles and crystal lighting. One great example of this is when Angie Dickinson's character Kate goes on a maze of sorts through the Metropolitan Museum of Art to find a man who happened to pick up her sparkling glove. Not only this, but the mysterious man appeared to be giving her a knowing look, which Kate assumed was flirtation. Not long after, Dickinson's character finds herself asleep in the man's house. Unfortunately for Kate, this is where we're introduced to the film's deadly villain. The villain, whose identity is not revealed till the end, appears as a blonde woman whose face is covered by searing dark glasses. She stalks her prey until she's alone with them, at which point she slashes them with the razor blade. Close-ups of the blade reveal the shining and crystallized nature of its edge, much like the lighting does in other scenes. The reflection of the blade helps to alert a clueless Nancy Allen, who is then introduced to us. When she sees the hidden killer through the razor blade's glare in an elevator inside the same apartment that Kate had just been snooping around in, she picks up the blade while the elevator closes and the villain gets away. Taken downtown, Alan's character Liz is revealed to be an in-demand call girl who was in the apartment on the job. At the same time, Kane's character Dr. Robert Elliott and Kate's son Peter, played by Keith Gordon, are brought in. Elliott was Kate's psychiatrist in New York City, and he's been alerted that the razor blade from his office has gone missing. Therefore, realizing that it would be possible that the unidentified killer in the elevator is also one of his patients. After Kate gets murdered, Peter wants to find his mom's killer and overhears of the razor blade. He does some investigating of his own to try and figure out who could resemble the description of the killer out of all those who leave Robert's office one day. Peter is then led to Liz, on the subway, who is now being pursued by the mysterious villain too. He saves her life and the two come up with a plan to find this killer so she can't strike again, especially since they could be next on the hit list. Unfortunately, the scenes full of snooping around and the scenes with the villain present have little to no dialogue, so we never get a clue as to who the killer might be. However, the villain leaves a voicemail on Dr. Elliott's phone at the office, and it makes itself known as a transsexual named Bobby. The clock is ticking now, as we know Bobby is unstable, seeing from the office visits and the voicemail left, which leads to a conclusion of heightened proportions. However, the conclusion isn't as much of a bang as one would think. Bobby is no Carrie or Scarface, which is what drives De Palma's best films, the villain. Paling in comparison, Bobby is even a confusing character for us, as at one point it has 3 different known names when being referred to at the police station. The pacing is another issue, with lots of slow motion and drawn out long shots like the early elevator and museum scenes. The ending seems too quick in nature. It comes upon us and is discussed at the police station in a rushed manner. The long and drawn out sequences have another flaw, the acting. With little to no dialogue, the actors must possess the ability to convey what they're thinking from body movements and facial expressions alone. Dickinson's acting early on in the film is not very good, as she tries to make it way too apparent of what she's thinking. It's like something out of a parody. She nods in approval and looks dumbfounded when confused, which aren't normal expressions in her situation when she's just at a museum to look at art. Additionally, we shouldn't have to see a split screen of her and the exact nature of when she dropped her glove a second time, as if it's a clue that it's a thought cloud, or what she's thinking at that exact moment. And even when the characters do talk, the lines are forced and not very well written. Talk about hitting us over the head when we don't need it.
What's that?
Go in the middle, take your penis and slice it down the middle.
Nancy Allen's character Liz has a majority of the lines, however, she just isn't a good enough actress to deliver them in any sort of believable manner. The movie tries to make up for its undoings in script and casting with over-the-top sensuality, which is De Palma's go-to. Think of Dressed to Kill as an amateurish attempt at the Hitchcockian thriller 30 years after the maestro perfected those, while being overly dramatic in slow camera panning and tilting, revealing naked characters and lustful ambitions. The 80s look hasn't aged well either, but it's the least of our complaints here. Overall, Dressed to Kill doesn't do much of anything for us, and is not in the same league as Carrie and Scarface, or even that close for that matter. It's full of cliches, like the scene at a mental hospital where everybody takes on the outdated assumption that everyone in there is a crazed wild man. Filmmaking should come a little more natural, but this is the opposite of anything resembling real-life acting. Therefore, we give Brian De Palma's Dressed to Kill a 6 out of 10. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more reviews on movies in the future, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.